So this one will be about subpersonalities mixed into your ex-girlfriend. In fact, the question came in, was talking about a situation where a guy has an ex-girlfriend. They hung out for whatever reasons. They've been broken up for a long time. So it's been like years. A lot of time has passed. They've done fine without each other. It doesn't still have that same emotional hook, but they were in a situation where basically she was like, "Hey, what are you doing later?" And he was like, "Oh shit, boom." And they talked about it, but then he texted something that got all misread, and she was like, froze it out. And part of that was because she said something, and be like old times. That's what she said. And he said, "But what about new times?" And so now that he didn't want that, but it was probably read as like, "Oh my God, there's this like emotional investment. I don't want to do it." Now, how does this fit into subpersonalities and what people do? And by subpersonalities, that sounds like a really fancy term, and it is. And it gets all psychological and all this stuff. But here's the thing, it's super easy. In fact, you can think about it yourself. And it's a theory that was very influential in a lot of the stuff that I did with dating and still is influential to this day and helps me read people super fast. In fact, I was so proud of this, so proud that I was introduced to Maria's family by her family. Not through Maria, but her mom actually said, "Steve understands people better and faster than any psychologist you'll ever meet." So that was kind of cool. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But the reason why I get things quicker, and I don't want to say than most people, but because anybody can really learn this, is because I've seen certain patterns in people so much that you can kind of quickly categorize them so you can see the individual. Now, let me just make that clear, because I'm very against not seeing the individual. I'm very against denying that. But if you are refusing to see what people are, like, oh, this is a woman, or this is a woman that's afraid, or this is a woman that is very liberated, or this is a woman that is has her guard up. If you're refusing to see that, then you'll never see her full individual, because you'll be speaking to her fear or her presentation or her overconfidence or those types of things. And same things with men, right? And so a lot of times we compartmentalize ourselves to protect ourselves. What I'm saying is because we've done that, or because there are so many things that we just can't literally talk about or voice, especially our sexuality, especially our passions, especially really deep stuff like the things that we want, especially stuff like our doubts. You know, a lot of the stuff that we write about in the identity PDF, our desires, it's very hard to articulate those things. So because we can't, they get compartmentalized or put in certain areas within our own mind that other people have to see in order to access them. Hence, a lot of the beauty of TSL stuff is to see that. So in fact, I mean, I studied subpersonalities before I ever came up with the concept of rapport cycling or even the identity workbook. Okay, so that all being said, subpersonalities, whenever you meet anybody, and I'm going to talk about this in terms of sex because number one, that's how I first learned it, and I was very sexually motivated, but it does work for anything, literally anything we write about in the identity workbook. But I'm going to talk about it for sex also because the question had to do with that. So this girl, this ex-girlfriend, she wanted to basically hook up with, you know, my friend, this guy who's one of our clients and is doing very well with women at the moment, right? And we go through these like waves where when we're doing well with women, we can sense it. But it helps us so much better if we can guess or estimate or make these assumptions. And again, we can be wrong about those and make mistakes. But if we start off thinking in this way, we'll get better at reading the situation as it goes on. So guessing is good as long as you're willing to be wrong because it will help you build major social intelligence. All right. Major. All right. So when we start guessing about this, it's going to help us see the whole spectrum and learn to communicate to that specifically. So I'm guessing, and I'm going to guess that I'm right. And that's kind of why people pay me the big bucks, but I'm definitely wrong a lot of the times. But this whole process is to learn more and for you to learn more. And this is the most important thing to get your wheels turning about this rather than just take the action on the advice I give you, is that she was fitting in this personality of sex and being a woman that is very different than a man thinks, and women and men think very differently about this stuff, but we all want the same thing of good sex and good emotions and good connection. But the personality that she thought in was this. Wow, I'm meeting my ex-boyfriend. He's still hot to me. The things that she's thinking, and I don't know this when she's thinking it, but as long as she's asking like, hey, what are you doing later? I'd be like, holy shit, man, that whole conversation with me, she was probably thinking about my dick. She was thinking about the good sex. She was thinking about how awesome it was. She was thinking about how she hasn't gotten laid in a while. She was probably thinking about, and this is very true. Yeah, and I just know this from experience. And again, I'm willing to be wrong about it, but I'd bet on me on this one. And she's probably thinking like, man, I've had sex with all these different people. I've had sex with my past, boyfriend or 2 boyfriends or 3 or whatever, and it just sucked. And this could be good. Fuck. Man, I miss it. I don't want to be in a relationship, but he probably doesn't want a relationship. I wonder if I could just have a night to feel what it's like of how I felt like a woman. And I would go into all these specifics, okay, of, man, I like his dick. Man, I want to feel like a woman. I've had sex. I'm thinking poorly about my last 1 or 2 or 3 sexual partners. I still remember the other things that I've done sexually with him. I've tried the things that I've done sexually with him and didn't like him. These are all things that I would like hit on and flag in my head and even bring them up in certain ways. Why do I say this? Because I've been in this fucking situation so many times. And I also have so many women friends who I've talked to about this and those specific things. In fact, as I was bringing this up, I thought about one girl, but then I thought about another girl. And then I thought about another girl as I was listing off those checklists of things. But as he was talking about this on the call, I thought about this girl who, when I was in Paris for 1 day, and I was with my friend Joel, kind of an awesome guy, and I was talking about him earlier on the call. And I said, Joel, I'm here for less than 24 hours, and I have to get from Paris to London to catch my flight. And I don't know how to do that because I'm like a ruffian fool that doesn't plan on shit and whatever, but I want to hang out with you, Joel. So I then go on Facebook. Well, I'm in Paris. I only have 24 hours, okay? Or less than that. I had like 20 or something. So I get on my Facebook, and plus I want to hang out with Joel, and we're walking around these graveyards, and we're looking at all these artistic people and finding their graves and hanging out where they hung out and eating raw meat and making all sorts of fucked up videos, and him getting really drunk and making rash, highly offensive comments to everybody, and it was great. It's beautiful. But somehow I get on the internet and text my ex-girlfriend. She's like, oh, I'm at the Louvre, and I work there, and blah, 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 blah. We should meet. Okay. And Joel's like, dude, you gotta fuck her. And I'm like, man, I gotta check. I gotta see first. I gotta see because I don't know what thing she's gonna fit in. But here's where it switched. So we met. She brings me some stuff from the Louvre as a souvenir and da-da-da-da. And she's talking to me and she's like, so what's happened? Da-da-da-da. Hanging out for about an hour. And I like her, man. I mean, like we dated for a long time and I like seeing her. And she said, how many people have you slept with? And as soon as that happened, number one, if a girl asks you that, it's probably best to think about why she's asking that rather than honestly answer it, because you want to serve. You don't want to piss people off. That's a question. That's a question that gets asked a lot. But here's what it meant. As soon as it was like, I'm getting laid tonight. I need to get laid. I only have like 5 more hours or whatever it was, 10 more hours. I need to get laid. And why was that? Why was that? As soon as she asked that, why would she ask that? You know, it's not to find out the truth. It's to find out if it's okay to sleep with me. And probably, and this was actually what was true, is because she slept with other people and it wasn't that good. And she wants to rekindle that. And anyway, if anybody's asking that question, if you fuck them, like, don't worry about whatever the answer is and the discussion is around that. Worry about how you can get to a place where you guys can have sex. So I said, like, look, you really want me to answer that question? I feel kind of uncomfortable about it or whatever, but like, I assume I know why you're asking. She's like, why? Well, why won't you tell me? Why won't you tell me? I said, look, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you about one person that I slept with. And it was good, and these things happened, and it got carried away. But, there were a lot of things that weren't good, and I'm not dating them anymore. And so she kept talking to me. And so I just asked her, this is why you need to flag the shit in your head. Because as soon as she said that, it was like, I am now fit in the same predicament that this guy's on the call is asking. She is basically wanting to feel like a woman again. She probably had some bad past sexual partners. She tried things sexually that she, had done with other dudes, and it didn't work out with me. And whatever else I fucking said, right? And the reason why I know all that is because this happened even before this many times. So what do? We walk around Paris some more, She shows me her new place. This is the best part. We go because she had to move from one flat to the next. We used to have a flat where she had a flat, but I stayed there with her a lot. That was her own space. And she had to move in with a roommate now. And the best part of it is she was like, my bed is fucked up. Let's go into her room. And she told her roommate to wait outside. So we go to her flat. We sit on her roommate's balcony. And I said, let me ask you this. Like, what did I fucking ask? But I asked her something to get this started because I kind of want to break it all down. But anyway, what happened was she told me all about the sexual stuff. But it was like, let me ask you this. Like, what is it? It was probably like, you don't feel like a woman anymore. Like something around that. Because many women describe to me and tell me that. Like that are coming back to me sexually. They're interested in anything about my sexuality because of what we felt with them. And I've even had the opposite. This is the best. It's fucking awesome, man. I dated this girl for years. We started to have stagnant sex because after, a while it starts to go shitty, right? And so she was like, the first time she fucked me, she said, you made me feel like a woman again, because she had a bunch of bad sex. So we date for years, we have sex for years, on and off, And then she's like, I had to start fucking somebody else because they made me feel like a woman again. Then we disappear for a while, don't talk to her for, whatever, a couple months, 4 months, 5 months, come back to her. And I said, man, you need to feel like a woman again. She's like, oh my God, how do you know me? Full circle. So it's just something that women say, and like all women can relate with this. So probably I went down that road and I was like, man, you don't feel like a woman. Like what did you do? Like, and I had forgotten. This is the best part. The second best part. That's really actually the best part. Fucking in her friend's bed was the second best part. But the first best part, the best, was this, is that I said to her, what did you do that like, did you try something with a guy that like wasn't the same? And she was like, man, it was horrible. I dated this guy for the longest time. And I started saying the things, and this is what I forgot that this had all happened. She's like, I started saying the things that we would talk about or that you would say to me, and it freaked him out. And he got really mad and upset, and it made me feel terrible. And it was just bad. And then he felt bad because I felt bad. And I was like, man, oh yeah, like what? Because I had forgotten, man. She was like, man, you would have sex with me and like tell me like, you wanted to fuck me with other people and like, have me imagine my best friend and like eating her pussy or sucking all my friends' dicks and like waiting for you or like all this like crazy shit that I would go into. And like, I guess she brought this up to the guy. There's somewhat of a language barrier too, that it probably got miscommunicated. And he was like, what, you want to fuck my friends and suck my friends' dick? Jesus, like probably not the best thing. But, so anyway, long story short, we hook up and and what do you do? This happened to me over and over again. And this is what I think is important is you need to realize that every woman has multiple sides of her sexuality that are in these different compartments. And every single one of those compartments is beautiful, but if they were to mix, it would break the barriers down or break the beauty of that compartment. So you have to see them as separate doors to walk into to see the whole woman. Now they all come into one, and they all help to get to know the individuality. But you have to open all those doors separately in order to mix them together. And so there's one door that is the woman that loves and wants to be loved like a knight in shining armor. There's one woman that wants to be a vixen and be chased and desired by men, but not, give into it. There's one that wants to be watched and used and seen as everything that could be wrong in society and experiment in all these different ways. There's one that wants to be tied up and beaten and fucked or whatever the fuck it is, right? And then there's one door that wants to be just used and have her body just be the vehicle for a man's pleasure. And there's so many different doors. There's so many different doors to a woman's sexuality, her persona, her passions, her beauty, to all those different things. But the key or the road walking up to that each door is very different. Once you get past that door, we can move very much into this V of what that one woman is, right? But walking up to the door of the woman that wants to talk about something that is riding the edge of her sexuality, like this girl in Paris wanted to do because she had all these sexual experiences and hadn't been seen like a woman, needs to be a door that is walking up where, one, I don't even need to be sexual because she's already been there with me. Okay, so I don't need to talk about sex. I don't need to turn her on. I don't need to do some fucking shitty pickup NLP thing on sex. I need to not talk about sex because I'm already the sexual guy, right? I already got that. As soon as she asked me, If you slept with anybody else, it's like, oh, okay, I get exactly why you said yes to my Facebook message, right? So like the walking up to that door, no sex. Also, I don't need to show any emotional commitment. That could be there. Of course, we could rekindle the relationship if we wanted, but it's so much better to do after my dick's already been in them. Why do it before? Because there doesn't need to be any emotional attachment. I also need something where I can be like, oh man, I feel your pain and your confusion. I also need to say that I understand the depth of it, which is like, you want to feel like a woman. You've not felt like a woman. And I also need to just gently open that door. I don't need to push. I don't need to pull. I don't need to do anything crazy. I just need to say, hey, look, I understand you as a woman and we're alone and in a place where we can make something happen. And look, just kiss me. I will make you feel good. Once I'm there, that door opens and I get right back into the whole woman of everything. I could make love to her. I could eat her pussy. I could say like, oh man, what if my mom was fucking here watching us and you'd be shamed and da 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 or whatever shit while I'm doing it. I could do all that sort of stuff because I have opened the door to the entire woman. Now, let's say if we're talking to somebody that we see just broke up in a relationship and she got cheated on and she's very hurt. What is the road to that? What is that door that needs to be opened, the key to it and the walking up to it? Once again, man, we don't want to be judgmental. We don't even want to be sexual. A lot of times we'll take sex off the table because just by saying like, I don't want to be cheated on, or I dated a lot of guys that cheat, or I don't date guys, or I don't kiss on the first, what are fucking boundaries up there? That means you're already a sexual threat. And because that's a sexual threat that she's pointing out before you've even done much in this situation of this personality, of this kind of classification of a person, of the road that we're walking on to get to the entire individual of the person, is that we need to be aware of that. I'd take sex off the table. And I'd probably talk to them about understanding them, understanding the emotion, the pain, be alone with them. And then I'd get them to understand any form of physicality, any form of a sexual act like kissing, touching, pulling my dick out or whatever. Remember, once the door's open, I can do a lot more. Okay, and that door being open, what that would mean is like she is turned on, at least in this point. But it would probably to be like, no, like, I want to feel softer things. What does a girl who's been hurt by men say about sex? She says, I like kissing more than sex. I mean, all girls say this, but when they're in that mode, I like kissing more than sex. I think it's more important. I like things to be cared about, like my emotions, my body, my mind, those things rather than just the sexual pushing of a man. But every woman also likes the sexual pushing of a man when it is about something that doesn't make them afraid. So if it's just pushing blindly. But if I walk down that road and I'm like, man, I just want to touch you, and that turns me on. And I can sit here and say it turns me on without acting like an animal. But like, tell me how far I can take it. You tell me. And again, like control, safety, that surrounding. And man, it's very easy to say yes to. Well, I don't know. My friends think I don't want to be in this situation. You're not in any situation because you just said stop. But what if we try it again? What if I like touching you and you can let yourself like it? And when you say stop, I'll stop. These are the roads to walk down to get that door to open. Once that door's open, man, you can go fucking crazy. Because once her sexual mind takes over, once her emotions open up, it'll be a state of sex. But then, there's so much fear and shit wrapped around it that walking back down that road after you take your dick out could be kind of crazy as well. But what are some ones where you walk down that road and to open that door, you can be sexual? What if we go into the earlier ones when there's a younger woman or a girl that's putting up a lot of resistance and she's in this situation with you, but that she's a sexual person. That she would love to be fucked. That her body, that she doesn't know how beautiful it could be and how awesome it would be just for you to fucking ravage it and to have her feel what that feels like. And you assume that so many of her sexual partners haven't done that. So many of her sexual partners haven't been aggressive and shown enough force or shown enough deliberation. And actually, great. There's so many movies that pinpoint this, but it's so weird because this director's such a trip. Anyway, but if you watch the Black Swan, the thing with Natalie Portman and Monica Bellucci's ex-husband, and when they're they're doing their thing and he has her right here and he's about to kiss her and she's like, oh, wait. And he's just like, shut up. And he shoves his tongue down her throat or whatever it is. I forget the actual lines there, but she doesn't want it and he takes it anyway. It's like, why would she be there? Why would she be in that position? Why would she keep coming back? Why would she be continuing to dip herself into that temptation that's there if she knows it's dangerous, but she will never cross that river? At some point, you have to do it. And so at that point, at that road, you have to take charge. Sometimes you do, and it may not be as simple as that. It may be something verbal. It may be something where you have to take an action. But there's a girl talking, she's like, man, shut up. Why are you saying this when you really keep thinking about kissing me and you're just stuttering around about how to avoid that? And she'll stop and she'll try and argue with you and then you need to take her, right? What if it's like, well, I don't know, da, 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 da. It's like, man, no, fucking put your fucking hand right here on my dick and do what you want to do and stop talking about what you think you want to do. And you might have to do those different things that come into play with it. All these things are different roads to open up that door to get to everything else. This is also why I say, you do not know somebody until you've had sex with them. I think it is the most retarded thing to withhold sex to think you'll get to know somebody better. Now, you can withhold sex because you've decided that upon your sexuality, you think it's a bad thing, you think it will cause damage or whatever. But if you're actually trying to talk and get to know somebody and date somebody that you care about, don't fool yourself that you will actually get to know them better. You will not. You can only fully know somebody until you've actually had sex with them. And the reason why I say that is because your doors have to open in order to get to access that deeper part of them. I mean, think about it. You really think you know somebody better if you're putting up all these walls and barriers? No, man, you are talking to somebody with your fears and with your apprehension, and that's okay. You can make that decision. You can absolutely make that decision, but be real about it. It's like, no, I am not going to get to know you that well because I'm not sure about these different things. That's fine. But man, the assumption so much with men and women, it's like, no, well, I just don't know them well enough to have sex, but I want to get to know them. No, if you want to get to know them and you want to fully understand who they are, you need to have sex. Why? Because it's a pivotal point of communication, and so much communicates then that there's truth, there's honesty, there's purity. You can't run from things anymore. Right? And you can be open. And the reason why you are probably putting walls up or making all these boundaries and rules around it is probably because you were hurt and it did not feel good. That's a little bit, a more real assessment to be making with things. Look, I don't want you to fully get to know me. I don't want to fully open up all my doors because I do not know who you are yet. And I'm not ready to make that jump. But man, you can only fully get to know somebody and truly see them if you have, spent time with them in the naked and raw state, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And that's really what sex is.